Your country's in revolt.
It's a near media blackout.
We got the ground rumbling now. We'll just wait. It's going to really rumble.
The time has come to end all of this now.
The various anti-mandate protests around the world have been getting little to no coverage, even though thousands upon thousands have been taking to the streets all across Europe each and every week. I do want to tell you about another protest happening right now just across the border in Canada. On Sunday, a protest in the form of a massive convoy of truckers kicked off in British Columbia with cheering crowds lining the streets and filling up overpasses. It's unknown exactly how many truckers are taking part in this convoy, but the estimated number is 35,000 to 50,000 trucks, with more trucks joining in as the convoy makes its way across Canada. And in many of the towns they pass through, crowds are waiting in sub-zero temperatures cheering them on. Some are even giving out cookies. The ultimate destination is Ottawa, where the truckers and their supporters intend to protest the Trudeau government over their newly implemented cross-border vaccine mandates.
Yes, this started with vaccine mandates, but for most here, it's about a lot more.
I think this is more of a freedom movement.
Well over 1,000 people lining the Trans-Canada Highway outside of Winnipeg in -30 wind chills, protesting what they call government overreach.
Somebody has to stand up for Canada, and the truckers are doing it.
It all started a couple days ago in Delta, BC. Truckers protesting vaccine mandates at the border. Now, as the convoy logs more kilometers, it's getting more support.
We're just really tired of getting our freedoms trampled on.
It's worth sticking up for what you believe in.
Arriving outside Winnipeg, hundreds of vehicles taking more than an hour to pass.
From Calgary. Yeah. What do you think of this?
It's awesome.
To take our country back.
The Canadian truckers aren't only protesting the Canadian government's cross-border mandate rule, they're also protesting the U.S.'s same mandate, which prohibits unvaccinated foreign truckers from crossing into the States. The convoy intends to stay in Ottawa until the Canadian government drops the mandate and until the Canadian government asks the U.S. to do the same.
This is just a peaceful protest. Yes, it's big, and yes, it's going to be loud, and yes, it's going to disrupt. But you know, we're not looking, like I said, we're not looking to kick in any doors or cause any problems. All we want are, you know, a certain group of our rights and returned to us. That's it. Like, for lack of a better way of turning it, there's no big long list. It's we would like our choices and our rights returned to us as people and individuals that we're allowed to do. And we're not doing it just for the truckers. We just happen to be the biggest people, the largest amount of people out there that are able to do this, right? There's not enough nurses to do something like this. There's not enough cops. There's not enough ambulance, but there are enough truckers. So that's why we're doing it. We're doing it for ourselves. Yeah. Are we doing it for everybody else? Absolutely. Anybody that's got, you know, sitting in their house right now, look around. Everything that's in that house is a result of us, and we're doing it for you. There you go, man.
And what's interesting about this convoy is it's getting hardly any coverage at all inside of Canada, or really anywhere. It's a near media blackout, which oddly seems to be the same thing happening in Europe and even here in the States in regards to all of the other protests. The convoy hasn't deterred the Canadian government yet. They have instead doubled down, with the transport and labor ministers releasing a joint statement saying the vaccines are, quote, the most effective tool to reduce the risk of COVID-19. In a separate interview, the transport minister said the government is not interested in alternatives like rapid testing for unvaccinated truckers. He stated, our plan is to defeat COVID and end the pandemic as quickly as possible. What we're doing right now is for the protection of truck drivers, but also for the protection of our supply chain and our economy. The best way to deal with COVID is through vaccination.
Your country's in revolt. Do you know about this? Well, show this video. Look at this video that I sent Jamie.
This is huge. Look at my go forever. This is by Atchison outside of Edmonton, heading to Calgary, January 23rd.
It's a giant convoy of trucks that's apparently some insane amount of people, like 50,000 trucks, that are headed to Ottawa to protest the vaccine mandates by Trudeau.
And they're all coming from Canada because
they're
not
all
allowed to
in
come
Canada. They're all in
crazy.
Canada. It's all Canadian truckers because apparently they're all being mandated that they have to get vaccinated, and they're like, "Hey, we don't even contact anybody. We're in our truck.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
We just drive."
So this is a genius idea. We need to see more of this here in the U.S., and we need to see more of it in the countries like Canada, like New Zealand, like Australia, that were probably perhaps known or at least thought of as free countries. That could totally be gone right now. I mean, what I've seen out of those countries is absolutely insane. And what's going on right here in the U.S. is absolutely insane. So let's support these truckers fighting for freedom. I would say there's a strong possibility that Biden put the recent vax mandates on truckers crossing the border to try to stop exactly this kind of global movement, right? If it wasn't about stopping that movement, maybe they'd have the same mandates at our southern border. And for people that are not truckers. Maybe they'd have it for everyone, the hundreds of thousands of people that have probably crossed our borders in the last couple months. But they don't have mandates. That's just fine. If you're illegal, that's just fine.
There's been some interesting and even eyebrow-raising opposition to the convoy. There's the obvious and blatant media blackout. Some could say the reason the media isn't covering it is because it's small and fringe, but social media users are showing crowds gathered on the streets in nearly every town the truckers roll through and on many of the overpasses in the towns that the truckers pass. Also, the convoy has raised over $5 million through GoFundMe, and I'd say this is not small or fringe, definitely not as small or fringe as the government wants it to be, especially when you're talking about 35 to 50,000 trucks.
The Freedom Rally has managed to raise over $5 million through GoFundMe, but the online donation service is withholding the money. Organizers have denounced any factions that may be planning violence, but police are still on high alert. The Prime Minister not letting the convoy influence Ottawa's restrictions.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other.
I do want to read part of this statement that was released from the convoy. Quote, the trucking convoy is not anti-vaccination. It is anti-government mandates. Many of us are vaccinated. We simply believe that every Canadian should be free to choose and face no discrimination or restrictions on their freedom due to their choice. The Canadian Trucking Alliance is a spineless private organization that does not speak for us. No more lockdowns, no forced vaccination. And yes, if it is forced, it is forced when you choose between a shot you don't want and your ability to feed yourself. Truckers will not block emergency vehicles at any point ever and will even assist any person in need at any point in the convoy or protest.